Peace and blessings, and welcome back to Heritage Hip Hop. We are more than music because we believe Heritage Hip Hop is God within you, not music. It's not boom bap, it's not beating on tables, and it's not drum kicks and rhymes. That's the expression of God within you. And today I have a gentleman who wants to bring not only God to the forefront, but the knowledge that comes with God to the forefront. Introduce yourself to the people, please.
Peace, man. What's going on, man? This is Lak. I've been named the hip hop educator, so that's what I'm kind of calling myself these days. I'm the CEO of Smart Thug Entertainment as well as Smart Hip Hop Global. Both companies, we strive to put out educational content through music and through various forms of entertainment, such as plays and books and things that's coming in the future. But I'm out of Jersey, man.
So am I. So salute.
Okay, all right, cool.
You know what I'm saying?
What part of Jersey?
I'm in Orange. Where you at?
New Brunswick. I'm from New Brunswick, New Jersey.
Oh, yeah?
I grew up in New Brunswick and Willingboro, New Jersey.
Salute to Route 18. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I see the jersey on the back wall. So salute to the home state. This is homecoming right here.
Yes, sir.
And this is very interesting because Smart Thug Entertainment and educated hip hop has been what Boogie Down Productions brought into the game on a high level. So you are coming to hip hop under that vein. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. What was the first hip hop rhyme that opened up your mind to not make you an MC, but to challenge yourself and what you know about life?
Oh, wow. That's, with that, because there's various songs I've heard that opened up my mind to different realities, and they may not have been educational, so Cool G Rap, for example, Road to the Riches, that kind of, even though it was very, different, but it opened up my mind to like a different reality, being a kid and listening to this, his version of coming from the bottom and trying to succeed, and it made you think, yo, you want to be something, but the message, I was too young to absorb that for what it was. Even though I heard it, I thought it was dope. It's one of the hip hop songs, one of the first to pioneer, put that out. But my mind wasn't equipped, but I heard it and I absorbed it. And then, listening to Big Daddy Kane, listening to Rakim, that was more like a style thing. Listening to Public Enemy, there's one song, man, it's more like a sound. Like Tribe Called Quest really opened my mind to a sound that I wanted to create, a vibe that I wanted to be on, especially when I heard the Midnight Marauders album.
Classic.
Which is one of my favorite joints. You go from Low End Theory to the Midnight Marauder, but that album really opened me up to the sound that I wanted, because it wasn't hard, but it was hard. It was very melodic. There was the jazz music in it. So from a music perspective, that album did a lot for me. It's the first time I've been asked that question, so I'm just thinking about it. But the Midnight Marauder album really kind of opened me up to like a style that I wanted to go in a format that a groove that I kind of wanted to capture. And then after that, I was inspired by different songs. But for that particular question, I would say, even though it wasn't, as conscious as, say, X-Clan or Brand Nubian or Nas or Razkaz and, and the brothers that was putting out information like that, the collections of sounds and stories. I even noticed how he took it from, like, you start at one part of the day and then you ended up, next thing the night is on my mind. It was just the whole melodic, that album did a lot for me as far as hip hop is concerned.
Hip hop is the only classroom that you learn in that does not have walls. How does hip hop stay alive with you? How do you make sure you nurture the life that comes from your music to others?
Well, the first thing is I have to feel it. I didn't, when I started rhyming, I was beatboxing first. I started beatboxing in like the second grade, but I was beatboxing, I was breakdancing, I had the cardboard, I was emulating Turbo and Ozone. I had we living in New Brunswick. I had the Goose Bomber. I had the Lee jeans with my whole body spray painted on it. So I was that kind of kid growing up. You know what I'm saying? The Kangos, I would go get, but it was, you know, starting from there, starting from beatboxing, I kicked my first rhyme in the 3rd grade. I started writing rhymes in the 4th grade. For me, it's really an inside thing. You know what I'm saying? It was really like what comes with just, you know, what I hear. If I'm happy with what I'm talking about or what I'm spitting and it makes me feel good, then I kind of go from there. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily like I don't know how people are going to react to the music. So I don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? I have to worry about, yo, I like this. I think this is dope. Let me put this out. Because as soon as I try to be like, yo, I don't think people are going to like this or this and that, it's going to compromise what's within. You know what I mean? So the first thing is my inner voice. The first thing is my inner voice. And I never really, I paid more attention to that when I heard Dr. Dre say, I'm my worst critic. You know, he was basically saying, I got to like my own music before, and that was Dr. Dre, before everybody else. And then when I heard him say that, I'm like, yeah, you know, I got to like my music. So it really just comes from within. You know what I'm saying? I think about the bars and I spit them out. You know what I'm saying? And if I like the bars when I'm creating them, then I just give them to them. You know what I mean? Some people gonna like this, some people not. Some people, I've been told all sorts of things about the rhymes that I kick. So, you know.
Good point. Good point, because I don't think you would be appreciated for how dope you are today until some people grow up and understand life is bigger than the bar.
Definitely.
I think today's hip hop is reminiscent of hip hop in 89 to 93. I'm going to tell you why I say that. Hip hop is in a good place. Rap is not. When I'm talking about hip hop, I mean the culture. And today's culture, since a lot of the youth have more information, they're more aware than we think they are. They just don't have the guidance that we've had through hip hop because the information age is bigger than the hip hop age. They're kind of going together. See, for us, we listen to hip hop for knowledge. They listen to hip hop to reinforce the knowledge. How do you feel about that?
I feel like the culture of hip hop is growing and it's expanding. And from that perspective, it's a good thing. However, there is a purity that's missing. Like when you talk about 89 to 93, for me, now you're talking about originality. Now you're talking about people just trying that didn't hear anything prior to them kicking their own rhymes and them coming up with their own styles. They wasn't trying to emulate anybody. You're going back to, now you're talking about Big Daddy Kane. Now you're talking about Chubb Rock. Now you're talking about, you know, Chuck D. And when you go into that, you know what I'm saying, Rakim, that's that 89 to 93. Now you're about to jump into the Nas era. You know what I'm saying? 93, 94. So for me, it was really a pure thing because people were really telling their stories, really being pure, really wasn't interested in what anybody else was saying. They were trying to tell their story. Today, I feel like hip hop is bigger, but you also, because it makes more money, now you have a lot more corporations into hip hop. Now you have a lot more of outside people inside the culture dictating how the culture is going to be presented to the world. And so on the one hand, you do have MCs that have more information, but on the other hand, you have a lot more people that's like, yo, if I'm doing this, I'm gonna get on, I'm gonna be big, I'm gonna do this. It's not the purity, it's not like the poetic side anymore. It's like, yo, you could be a rapper and you can do this. And you know what I mean? People, I wanna be like the rapper, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't come up saying, I want to emulate a rapper. It was like, yo, it was dope. I can do this. Let me do this. You know what I mean? Now it's like, well, I can get money if I copy this person. I'll copy his whole style, his whole swag, bar for bar. And to me, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's kind of dicey with that. You know what I mean? Because once you have corporations coming into the picture, you're to me, it's a little bit of diluting the culture, because now you're exploiting the culture for what you think is going to make money outside of exploiting it for the pure artisticness of it, for the pure poetry of it, for just the scratching and the breaking. Now it's like, yo, let's put this in a McDonald's commercial. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to hear this this weird form of this hip hop. You know what I'm saying? That it just becomes weird. So I agree, hip hop is bigger, and it's bigger. But even with the money, you know what I'm saying? Like this is not the bad boy era. This is not this is not Irv Gotti, where these people are making $100 million and doing stuff like that. So on the one hand, you have more exposure and you're doing more stuff, but they snatch the part of, yo, I'm gonna sell my joint for $10 and get $10. Now it's streams. Now you get 10,000 streams and that'll equal your one record sale. So there's a lot of, you know what I mean? There's a lot of differences that's in today's hip hop. You know what I'm saying? But I do like the fact that hip hop is always a representation of what's happening now. So you always at least get to hear what's going on right now when you listen to rappers, good or bad. You know what I'm saying? Whatever they talking about is whatever. If you know, when we went from idolizing drug dealers or whatever to everybody doing pills now and on lean, you know what I'm saying? And it's a different type of sound. And you know what I'm saying? Even your bop is different and everything. So, but it always kind of lets you know, like it wasn't as much, hip hop wasn't as violent when we was coming up. You know what I'm saying? But it's a lot more violent today. You know what I'm saying? A lot more kids have access to guns. We didn't have 14, we wasn't 12, 13 years old walking around with guns. Some people were, you know what I'm saying? And we knew who they were, you know what I mean? But everybody got a gun today. You know what I'm saying? So there's a difference with what being said and things of that nature. You know, there's a difference, man. I agree with you that hip hop is bigger, but I do think that there was a level of purity coming out of that 88, 89. You know what I'm saying? That's a real live golden era right there. And all of the eras are special to me. But you know, you going LL Cool J, and you know what I'm saying, you going back to that and how it influenced people. It was a different time.
You fell for the trap, and I'm glad you did. Because I said hip hop culture's in a good place.
The culture.
You talked about the business side, and the business is what's been used to destroy the culture. Remember the prophecies of the late 90s where they said real hip hop will go underground and the machine would take control of the music? Remember?
I didn't hear that, but I know that that's true.
Yeah, that's what Prodigy was talking about. With a lot of the Mobb Deep and his solo content. That's what a lot of people who hated Eminem was talking about when they was like about the machine. And we've seen that basically, yeah, because it's an old script that has been taken from jazz, rock and roll, blues, etc. But see, here's the thing that makes hip hop different than those other music genres. Hip hop is not a music genre. Hip hop is a way of life, which makes it a culture. That's why we can say that. So even when people talk about how the business got bigger and the influence is there are still people like you that keep hip hop culture permanent and alive and in a good place. And that's why I brought that statement up, because it wasn't to show your depth of knowledge. It's to show the people the knowledge of you so we know how important your content is. So salute. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that.
Hey, I got to set the traps up so we can have a conversation. I don't like question and answer. I like to converse. You know what I'm saying?
You're playing chess with me. I got it.
So one of the major things that the culture had that people don't really recognize from the past is we say nowadays a lot of people sound the same. I remember when DOS Effects came out, a lot of people sounded like DOS Effects. So that emulation has never not been there. It's just that now there's money behind it, or the internet makes it so open that you hear more and more of it. So when you hear a voice, you don't know the face. Right? Yeah. I say today we're in that era still, or we've gone back, because everybody that stands out is pivotal in the culture today. J. Cole, Kendrick, Drake, even Future, I guess. But even behind them, nobody sounds like Roddy Ricch. Nobody sounds like Moray. Nobody sounds like them, and they are the ones who are at the top of the game. And when it comes to you, because you're elevating the part of hip hop that people have been starving for and looking for, but the mainstream won't push. How do you make sure that the education, the knowledge, and the wisdom is still pertinent so that when it is looked for, it can be found and people know that you exist?
Well, that's a two-part thing. Number one, it's there's a business side that you have to handle. You know what I'm saying? And I recognize that when I began this. You know what I'm saying? My wife and I started this company together. But when I first started doing educational hip hop music, it wasn't really to, you know, I just started making it for the people. You know what I mean? I genuinely started because I was a part of this group and we were going to make an educational kid album. You know what I'm saying? And it didn't fly with that particular group. You know what I'm saying? I was part of this group. It was a shout out. And these are my brothers today. You know what I mean? We had this thing called realhiphop.com. My brothers was out of Irvington, New Jersey. Newark, New Jersey, Newark and Irvington, my man New and my man DT from Trenton. You know what I'm saying? But it was a bunch of us. And we had this thing, it was real-hiphop.com. And we was doing these God lyrics battles and all of that. But we were going to put out a kids album. We never ended up doing it. But I loved it. You know what I'm saying? After I was pulled into the project and it was like we was going to do this, I started writing. I wrote the first 25 Presidents was my first, educational hip hop rhyme that I ever wrote on that line. And then it went to Black Women in Congress. And then it went to the Moors. And then it went to 50 states. You know what I mean? And then next thing you know, I got Lesson 1. You know what I'm saying? But it was a process. So from the one hand, it was something that I really enjoyed. But once I got done, I said, in order to push this album out, I have to form a company and we got to be about this business because no one is going to do this. You know what I mean? And my thing is, I'm like, in the lane that I'm in, I'm going to have the time. It's not a lot of people in this lane. So I don't ever have to stop. You know what I'm saying? I'm not competing with anybody. I'm not trying to sound young or do none of that. Like I'm teaching, you know what I'm saying? So as long as my bars is tight, I don't ever have to stop. My wife is like a marketing guru, you know what I'm saying? So us, and this was just natural, you know what I mean? Like I didn't plot on her, you know what I mean? Not like that. This was a natural thing and we formed the company. And what ended up happening was Lesson 1 took me around the world, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to prior to that, having the million MC stories that didn't work out, getting everybody's number, almost signing with this people, working on this street team, doing all of that stuff since I was in the 9th grade. You know what I'm saying? Working with producers, doing all of that. To getting to a point where I'm like, I just want to do this for the people. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, why now? I'm like in my early 30s, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, or late 20s, early 30s. And I'm like, I'm just going to do this for the people. And having that project, now that's taking me around the world, like around the country, around the world, shows, you know what I'm saying? Going from, opening when nobody's there and stuff like that, or paying people to get on stage and now doing educational hip hop music, having people appreciate it, having people pay me, having people fly me out, you know what I'm saying? And it's not mad popular because it's not on the radio, but to me, it was working. Now I'm performing in front of 30,000 people and I'm on my own, you know what I'm saying? And that never happened before, you know what I mean? So it was really a growth thing. So when I did Lesson 1, it was really just an educational kid album. The Grammys people contacted me I was nominated for a nomination. You know what I'm saying? I didn't, they didn't nominate me and all of that, but at least they contacted me. So I'm like, this is nuts. You know what I mean? For the educational category. So when I went into Lesson 2, now I'm going in and thinking totally different. Now that's why you got Talib Kweli on there. Now, you know what I'm saying? I got Capone on there. Now my man Mercury Beats, who's my childhood friend, is doing the joint. Now my man Megahertz, you know what I'm saying, is got a track on there, who's also my childhood friend. Me and Megahertz got a whole CD together we did when we was kids. But it was I took things more seriously after that. You know what I'm saying? And pushing Lesson 2. But I went straight to Wolves instead of pushing Lesson 2 the way I wanted to, because me and Capone have formed this friendship. You know what I'm saying? Redemption was the last joint on the album. And it went from there to forming a friendship to doing an EP. And then I ended up pushing Wolves, you know what I'm saying, a little bit hard. We still pushed Lesson 2, but not in the way that I had wanted to. And we just went straight to Wolves because lesson 2 is like my baby. But you know, it's really a progression. Even when you listen to the music, you'll listen to lesson 1 and you'll say, okay, and then you'll lesson 2 and then you'll hear the progression, and then you'll listen to Wolves and then you hear the progression, you know what I'm saying? And then the new album out is going to even be crazier, getting back to the roots of just teaching the people, getting back to the roots of just educating and being creative and playing with different sounds in the studio. So, you know, it's really been a journey, man. It's really been a ride. It's not like I went into it saying, yo, I'm gonna do educational music and I'm gonna blow up. You know what I'm saying? It just been like, oh, okay. Let me take this seriously because people are gravitating to this more than I thought that they would gravitate to it. Oh, you know what I'm saying? And then people are contacting me saying, you know, I want to hear you rhyme like this. You know what I mean? That kind of formed lesson 2. People wanted to hear bars and education lyrics. So that's why lesson 2 is an amalgamation of bars with education. So, you know what I mean? It was just a progression, man. And I had to just pay attention to everything that was going on. And I appreciated the love that I was given. And I'm like, yo, let me show this back by taking this serious and letting people know that I'm coming. You know what I'm saying?
That's dope because I love the projects. But we're not going to talk about that yet because since we're talking about education, give the people your background because that's important because there's 2 types of education in hip hop. There are the people who went to school and contribute to the art. And then there's people who grew up in a school of hard knocks and they bring life experience to the culture. So tell us about you and where your education derives from and how it helped to mold your bars and your presentation of music.
Really, man, you know, I say my educational journey, the beginning of me reading was being in the 4th grade. I'm from New Brunswick, but my 4th grade year, I lived with my grandma for that 1 year in Franklin, New Jersey, which is the next town over. That year just changed my whole life. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, everybody, when you're in 3rd grade, you're a baby. But I was wilding, you know what I'm saying? Like we was bugging completely out, you know what I mean? You talking about we was stealing cars, breaking into homes. I ran with older kids. So the things that I was doing wasn't normal, you know what I'm saying, for a really, really young child. Because I have 3 daughters and I'm like, yo, I couldn't imagine them doing what I was doing when I can't even imagine, you know what I'm saying? So, but when I got to 4th grade, everything sort of changed. And instead of just wilding and running the streets or things like that, it was, I'm sorry, but excuse me, I'm checking on something for my daughter. It was, now I got to stay in the house. My grandma was strict. She's from Evergreen, Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Evergreen and Montgomery, Alabama. So things was different. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting in fights in school, but when I always fought, you know what I'm saying? Ever since my track record of fighting is well documented, you know what I'm saying? But now my grandmother's beating me with a switch, you know what I'm saying? Things is different. Everything's changing. So I ended up being in my room and I had a stack of encyclopedias, Walt Disney encyclopedias. This is like the genesis of me beginning to really read. I had nothing else to do, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't hang out all night. I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? My mom worked in this, like there was none of that going on. My grandparents was real serious when I started playing sports. They put me in guitar practice. I played baseball, I played football, I was wrestling. Like everything changed that year. But the one major thing that happened was in my room, because I was so used to staying up all night, now I'm up all night, but the only thing in there was these Walt Disney encyclopedia books. So, you know, I would read one, you know what I'm saying, one page, you know what I mean? Maybe a couple of days later, I read another page. I ended up reading the whole joint, the whole encyclopedia joint, you know what I'm saying? And appreciating things differently, you know what I'm saying? So 5th grade, you know, I'm back in New Brunswick. I'm back with my mom, you know what I'm saying? But now I'm more interested into things, you know what I'm saying? Now I've read books that, you know what I'm saying, I wasn't reading prior to that, you know what I mean? Not, you know, of course, school and all that, but I didn't have no interest in learning, you know what I'm saying, more things prior to that. So that was like the genesis of just me reading a lot. You know what I mean? Because it didn't stop from there. You know what I'm saying? After I left my grandma, I still wanted to read. I still wanted this book. I still wanted that book. Now I want to participate in these debates between the Christians and the Muslims that I see on the corner. Now I'm reading. Now I'm reading the Bible. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm reading. I'm reading everything I get my hands on. That began that. You know what I mean? But I also moved around a lot. You know what I'm saying? So 7th grade, now I'm in Willingboro living with my dad. That's why I'm like, I grew up in New Brunswick, but then, you know what I'm saying, I ended up with my dad, you know what I mean, in Willingboro. But I'm still reading, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm reading the ISIS papers by Francis Wilson, you know what I'm saying, the great doctor, who rest her soul, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm reading, just more books is coming to me. So that began that. 12th grade, I moved again, you know what I'm saying? I'm back up, you know what I mean? And now I'm living with my aunt in South Brunswick, New Jersey, because she comes to me and she's like, yo, what you gonna do with your life? And I was like, I'm going to the military, you know what I'm saying? I planned on playing sports, but I had a injury. I tore a ligament in my shoulder, you know what I'm saying? So, my sports career, even though I still got scholarships playing my 12th grade year and all of that, it didn't pan out. But she said, yo, I'm gonna help you get into Rutgers. You know what I'm saying? So I moved with her in the 12th grade specifically so that she could help me get into Rutgers University. I only applied to one college. You know what I'm saying? Because if I didn't get in, my life was going to be totally different. You know what I mean? And it just so happens I got in. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't easy. It was a lot of work. I had to take my SATs multiple times, you know what I'm saying? But, I got in, you know what I mean? And once I got into Rutgers, now mind you, I had went to mad different schools. So the only thing that carried me through was my love of reading. You know what I'm saying? In my 12 years of going to different schools, I went to like 8 different schools. You know what I'm saying? From St. Peter's to St. Mary's to Life Center Academy to South Brunswick to Willingboro. You know what I'm saying? I did mad different schools. But the only thing that kept me was I had loved to read. You know what I'm saying? So that even though it was different educational systems and different people doing this and doing that, I had that love of reading, you know what I'm saying, that I acquired in the 4th grade living with my grandmother. So I got in, you know what I'm saying? And even though Rutgers was a struggle, you know what I mean? Because that foundation that you would get from just staying in one particular school district, I didn't have. You know what I'm saying? When everybody's learning this, I'll move into a section and they're done with that. And I got to catch up and do all of this. So Rutgers was still a struggle. You know what I mean? Because just reading a lot doesn't mean I had great study habits and all of that. You know what I mean? So I spent 5 years at Rutgers. But that experience, you know what I'm saying, of going to that college, I elevated even more, you know what I'm saying? The people that I was taking classes, I took classes by Ivan Van Sertima, and this was before I knew he was just my professor. You know what I'm saying? I took 3. That's when you listen to lesson 1 and you listen to the song The Moors, it's because I took his class called The Moors. You know what I'm saying? That's where that song came from. So it really just ended up being my love of reading. The brothers that I was telling you when we started real-hiphop.com, I met those brothers at Rutgers. They saw me in the coffee house battling everybody. And at the end of the night, I was left standing. So we formed this. They was like, yo, you know what I'm saying? You rhyme, you nice. That's how that friendship started. And it just continued from there. You know what I'm saying? I read to this day. You know what I mean? It's something I do. You know what I mean? I'm never going to stop that. So that's where the knowledge comes from, and reading all that stuff. I'm now just infusing it into my lyrics, as opposed to beginning as a battle rapper. And I lost my first battle terribly so. You know what I'm saying? The first battle I ever had, oh my God, I was in tears. You know what I'm saying? It was, I remember it like it was, I remember the dude and all that. I wanted to fight him. You know what I'm saying? It was serious. We almost fought right in front of my grandma's house, you know what I mean? But it was, I lost my first battle, something crazy. After that, I didn't lose again. But I'm coming from that battle, that battle joint, and just, I got beat up so bad in that battle that I just became, I remember that night being in the shower saying, yo, I'll never lose another battle again. But that was my genesis, the bars and the battling and the aggression and all of that. So, but reading and becoming older and, you know what I'm saying, more experienced and becoming a man and all of that, I'm just infusing all of that into my vocabulary and into my lyrics and into my bars now. So it's coming out naturally. I'm not forcing none of this. So that is the genesis of the education, of why my rhymes are like this, why I can still do education, but it's aggression. You know what I'm saying? Why I'm still able to go around and communicate with different people, because I know that those kids came up like me. You know what I'm saying? I know how it is in those school systems. I know how it is when they brand you as a problem and you're coming into a new school system and they got this paperwork on you. So they're now trying to be like, yo, you're the bad kid and we want to put you in this class. The only thing that saved me was reading. You know what I'm saying? It would have been, I would have been in a special ed class, not because I was slow, just because I'm the kid that grew up fighting. I'm the kid that was, you know, fighting all the time. I don't want to say beating a bunch of people up, you know what I mean? But I've beaten, but you know what I'm saying? But that was my story. And that is what traveled with, even into Rutgers University. You know what I'm saying? I didn't play ball because I got into a fight my first semester and got suspended from sports for 3 years. You know what I'm saying? So, which is why I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not really into fighting. It costs me too much. You know what I'm saying? So for me, man, it's really, really just been about the knowledge. It's really just been about reading. That's like my safe place. And rhyming is also my safe place. Playing football was my safe place, you know what I'm saying, until I got to college, because the only thing I had was sports from fourth grade all the way up until my freshman year in college. So, you know, it's that's where everything comes from.
That's deep, because you gave me 7 questions in everything you said.
All right, let's do it.
That was excellent. That was excellent, because usually when I do an interview, I got about 30 to 200 questions ready for you.
Jeez. Okay.
And you added to it. And I'm very excited, because going to Rutgers, your story is just like mine.
What school did you go to?
Rutgers North. That's the only school I ever applied to, and they took me, and I got there, and I graduated in 5 years.
Okay, all right.
It's kind of similar.
Word.
Yeah. What was your major, and how did your major help mold you?
Well, the crazy thing about my major is, before I got into Rutgers, like I said, my aunt was really, you know what I'm saying? My aunt, that's my dog. I love her. It's like my sister. You know, this is my grandmother's daughter. So when I was living with my grandmother, I'm in one room, my aunt's in the next. So, you know what I mean? This is a real love friendship, really, family thing. But she had got me into this thing called the Discovery Program before my senior year, before I moved with her. That's why we was having all of these conversations about what I want to do with my life and all of that. The Discovery Program was for people that was like good in science. I always loved science. So when I got into Rutgers, I came in as a botany major. You know what I'm saying? Like I got into Rutgers because I was good in science. Dr. David Shaw wrote my letter of recommendations for me to get into Cook College at Rutgers. I got into Cook College. I transferred over to Livingston College. But what ended up happening was, the people that I was rolling with, my man worked at Bad Boy Records. You know what I'm saying? So I began to change my way of thinking, and I came up with this plan. I'm like, listen, now I want to major in communication. So my plan was to major in communication, go to the Institute of Audio Research, begin my journey into the music business like that. You know what I'm saying? We interning for Puff, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, this is 95, so Big still around and all of that, you know what I mean? This was, you know, we was just little kids on the Bad Boy Street team. It was crazy. So I came in as a botany major. I switched it up to communication. As you know, communication is not easy to get into when you're at Rutgers. I know everybody has a stigma about being a communication major, but it ain't easy to get into the School of Communication when you're at Rutgers. So I applied, I got in my junior year, you know what I'm saying? Because you got to get into the School of Communications, you know. And what ended up happening was, I took so many Black classes, you know what I'm saying? I ended up having I got a majoring in labor studies. I graduated from the School of Communication, also have an Africana studies. You know what I mean? Those were my 3 majors. I could have minored in religion. I just didn't fill out the paperwork. Once I got there, I was so fascinated with I took Black religion. I met my wife in Black religion class. Black religion, New Testament, Old Testament, you know what I'm saying? And Swahili, and all of the Black classes that you can take. So I ended up, you know what I'm saying, having a degree in communication, labor studies, and Africana studies. And like I said, I could have minored in religion, but I didn't do it. And I took labor studies because my father, he's a construction worker. And I'm like, well, you know, I'll do that on the side to get my paper, you know what I'm saying, outside of whatever else I was doing. And I thought I had these plans of growing our business and doing all of that type of stuff. But I ended up majoring in those areas. I got a degree in, you know, Africana studies, labor studies, and I graduated from the School of Communication. And from the School of Communication, it was like, I was majoring in like international communication. You know what I mean? I wanted to be the person that communicated with people overseas, and it was interpersonal relationships on an international level. I forgot how they termed that, but it was, it was a speciality in communicating with different people all across the world from an interpersonal relationship. You know what I mean? Reading body languages, and, you know what I mean? I was going to have to take different languages and do all that type of stuff.
That's incredible. Because that's hip hop. Because while everybody focuses on the beat, it's the story to the rhythm of life that makes the MC's words become real to you. And I love what you said. But something that you said sparks back to one of those questions you gave me. See, a man, especially a man of color, we go through so much PTSD from birth to our teenage years that sometimes we lose ourselves in the lives that we're given and living at the same time. And it isn't until you have that epiphany that you question yourself. In reading and opening yourself up to another part of life, what was the conversation you had with yourself to choose the road that you went down to ultimately?
Which road you talking about? Which particular road? Life?
From being the young man who liked to fight and who had to get locked in his room to find knowledge, to the young man who was chasing knowledge for his new purpose. What was that epiphany like to be like, all right, I don't want to do this. Let me do this. And then let me find myself in this so I can be this.
It was a gradual thing, man. You know, on the one hand, there was a point in my life where I began to digest the information from different powerful men, whether it was Martin Luther King, whether it was Dr. Ben, Dr. York, you know what I'm saying? I know there's controversy with that, but I learned, you know what I'm saying? These were the people that I was listening to, Ashaka Musa Barashango. And if you listen to the song, The Black Woman, where Capone's verse start is Donald Trump. Well, my verse start is Ashaka Musa Barashango. So, you know, these, you know, Kaba Kamini, you know, there was a point where I just began listening to them over and over. And this was like a 7-year thing. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I did it for a couple months. I'm just talking about straight, you know what I'm saying? So that helped me in a variety of ways. Number one, it helped me because moving around a lot, sometimes you miss that main influence in your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, my dad was in my life, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I moved around a lot. I was here, I was there, you know what I'm saying? I might not see him then. You know what I'm saying? It was that sort of situation. You know what I mean? You know, me and my dad is cool, so I don't want to, you know what I'm saying, seem like he wasn't there or nothing like that. But, you know, there was times that we didn't spend together and see each other, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So when I was a young man, you know what I'm saying, you're talking about 22, 23, that's when I began to just straight listen to these people that I was gravitating to, Malcolm X. Matter of fact, with Malcolm X, when I did my final paper for Ivan Van Sertima, in my final presentation, it was on Malcolm X. You know what I'm saying? So I began to listen to all of these brothers, and when I was listening to them, I started to just gain more information about how to be a man, how to stand, what you're supposed to tolerate, what you're not supposed to tolerate. You know what I mean? And this was leading me from my early 20s into almost 30. You know what I'm saying? I have my first child when I was 26. You know what I'm saying? She was born in February, so from 25, 26 years old. But that part of my life shaped how I wanted to then grow. You know what I'm saying? Because those were lessons that I wasn't getting, you know what I'm saying, just coming up. You know what I mean? I've always been a talker and kind of articulate, so I've always been able to communicate. And I was running with older people. That's why when I was young, I was wilding, you know what I'm saying? Because I was hanging with people that was 7, 8 years older than me. And you know, when you're 9, it makes a difference if you're hanging with somebody that's 15 and 16. You know what I'm saying? That's a difference. But that era of my life, I learned a lot about just being a man. And then that, you know, helps me just grow and carry on because I was missing those lessons. You know what I'm saying? It's really important. I appreciate what a mentor means to somebody, male or female. There was somebody pulling you under their wing, giving you the game, telling you, you know what I'm saying? I always stood on my own in life. You know what I'm saying? So I learned a lot just from reading and just from listening and watching YouTube videos and thousands of hours of speeches. And by the time, you know what I'm saying, I'm 30, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm the man I want to be. You know what I'm saying? Now, and for some people, you're there when you're 20. For some people, you're there when you're 20, you know what I'm saying? For me, it was 30. You know what I mean? For me, that was like, yo, now I'm this guy. Now I'm straight. And then that progressed me and I was able to stand on that square and build from there. But that era, that's what did it.
That's incredible. I want to ask you this question. I think people of color are the most knowledgeable people who reject knowledge. And the reason why I say that is because, unfortunately, in inner city culture, education is a choice, not a standard. Why do you think that is? And why do you think it is more important for us to have education in hip hop than just have hip hop be educational?
I think because of the attack that the Black people are under. You know what I'm saying? There is a real live educational, that prison to pipeline thing is serious. You know what I'm saying? And when you take a child like me, um, it was always discarded. It was always, you know, this guy deserves to be in this type of class or fight. You know, I've always had those stereotypes of, you know, of being like a bad seed sort of kid. You know what I'm saying? And I'm really a nice guy. You know what I'm saying? Like all of the fights that I had, I'm not a tall dude. You know what I'm saying? But I don't let nobody bother me. You know what I'm saying? I don't certain things that really I don't like. You know what I mean? So I was quick to react if I was really disrespected in a particular way. You know, and my dad, you know what I'm saying, he's like this 4th degree black belt, so you know what I mean. You know, but that aside, you know what I'm saying, I think that when it comes to education, the Black community, we have the poor books. You know what I'm saying? We have the stigma. We got the prison to pipeline thing. We got the drugs in our community. We have the single parent homes. You know what I'm saying? We have the men in our life going to jail. You know what I'm saying? We have all of these things that we're dealing with, and we have all of these things that's affecting us mentally. So it's a battle where we have, you know what I'm saying, a culture that's coming against us because they want us to be in this particular place of servitude. You know what I'm saying? Black, you know, we're coming out of slavery. I think people forget how powerful it is when it was illegal for us to know how to read. That's a very, very powerful thing for we're coming from when it was illegal to know how to read. So now we're like, yo, why is education this? And why is this stigma? You know, there were things that we had to deal with in that. You mentioned the post-traumatic slave syndrome. I think you said PTSD.
PTSD, yes.
Some people say post-traumatic stress syndrome, you know what I'm saying? I learned that from Dr. DeGru. I believe that's how you say her name. But I know she did one of the first lectures I watched was from that sister on PTSD, but it was post-traumatic slave disorder.
Yes.
So it was, you know, we have all of these things coming against us that we're not even aware of until we could be conscious that these things are coming against us. And sometimes by the time we're aware of it, we're 50. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes by the time we're aware of these things that's attacking us, it's later in life. You're not dealing with these things 18, 19, 20. You know what I'm saying? And when you're 18, 19, and 20, you're dealing with the product of your childhood. You're dealing with the result of your childhood. And then you have to transition into being a man based on what you went through as a child. And then you got to redirect your energy. Then you got to relearn or redo this and recalculate. Not everybody's is going to do that. Not everybody has the patience to do it. Not everybody has the strength to do it. Not everybody has the awareness to do it. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of factors that contribute to why we go through so much mentally. And I just listed just some of them. You know what I'm saying? The prison pipeline, the stigma. My daughters, you know what I'm saying? My daughters are brilliant. They're geniuses. In kindergarten and first grade, the school kept coming to us talking about, yo, we want to put your child in these particular slow classes. And we was like, yo, like, what? You know what I'm saying? Just because they were Black, like straight up and down. Yo, man, I'm not going to mention the school district, you know what I'm saying? And it's a town that we don't live in anymore, but all of the African-American boys in that school were in special classes. It was crazy. All of them. And we're like, yo, all of the boys in this school are slow? You know what I'm saying? So it just, I know how we're under attack. Hey. Okay. I know how we're under attack. You know what I'm saying? And I know the forces that are coming after us. And those are issues that we're fighting. One of the reasons that I'm motivated to do this.
Wait. What you said, I want to back you up before you continue. Please hold your thought.
I got it.
I went to school post-grad at Montclair State University. Mm-hmm. I'm a teacher by trade. Right? So I remember in our class, education in the family, mm-hmm. They said in our textbook that Caucasian teachers had to learn Ebonics because by the time Black children come out of high school, we have a 3rd to 4th grade education level. And that's being taught as curricula in higher education. So imagine the people running the schools being indoctrinated with that and then seeing your children. Please continue.
Crazy. I'm going to come back to that point. What I was about to say, though, was one of the reasons I was so inspired is because when I started to travel around and going straight to the hoods, because those are the people that I wanted to talk to, I was in Philly. It was a STEM. I tell this story all the time. Not all the time, you know what I'm saying? But it had just impacted me. It was a 14-year-old girl there. Now I'm on stage, you know what I'm saying? It was a STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math program. I'm the hip hop educator. I'm there performing. You get off the stage and I'm there, you know what I'm saying? We got books that we give out. We have CDs that we give out, you know what I'm saying? We have that whole thing. So one of the things that we was doing was, my wife and I, when I say we was doing, because this was our company, is we would give out worksheets, right? And you had to fill them out, but you had to write your name on it and then tell us, just write. I have a picture of Frederick Douglass. I had a picture of Barack Obama. We had a picture of Harriet Tubman, Ida B. Wells. All you had to do was name them. You know what I'm saying? We put the names over here, the pictures over here, right? There's a 14-year-old young lady being Philly. She could barely write and spell her name. And it was wild, powerful to me. You know what I'm saying? Because she was like scared to do it. And I'm like, I'm taking it for granted. I'm like, yo, you just got to write your name on the joint so I can give you the book. Because the purpose was you do the worksheet, we'll give you a book. You know what I'm saying? So she was first embarrassed, you know what I'm saying? And then, when I took her to the side, I'm like, yo, you got to write your name. She could barely spell her name. And I had to work with her to write her own damn name. You know what I'm saying? So it was just, even when I think about it, it kind of gets me emotional. But that was one of the things that inspired me because I'm like, yo, you see what they're doing on people? Like, this is crazy. Why is this 14-year-old girl coming to a science, technology, engineering, and math program and you can't spell your name? So it was, that was just crazy to me. You know what I'm saying? And that was one of the things that just, I'm like, I got to do this. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I got to go into these schools. I need to put more information in my raps. I got to make it easier for you, you know what I'm saying, to digest some things. And even if you don't if you don't gravitate to what I'm teaching you, right? At least you can get in an educational mind frame. At least you can just think about education for a minute while you're listening to this music. You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't understand what you're digesting, you know what I'm saying? It's still something of substance. You know what I mean? But that's one of the things that motivated me. But back to what you were saying, you know, the mentality of the teachers to the Black community it's crazy. You know, we were trying to put lesson one into different. I tried to get to join into different curriculums and all of that. What I found was, mind you, we started this company in 2007. The first album came out in 2012. There was a lot of work being done between 2000 and 2012. I'm in the schools. That's why the album, you know what I'm saying? I had it, you know, we was moving around. I wasn't just trying to put out music. The purpose was to go to the schools. We spent years doing that. You know what I'm saying? Before coming out with the album. So what ended up happening was, what I kept being told was, yo, you can't put this in the curriculum. You know what I'm saying? There's boards and there's meetings, and you know what I'm saying, there's decisions that have to be made as far as what we teach into this school. You coming in talking about Black kings and queens and Moors? No. You can be in our after school program. You know what I'm saying? You can do the workshop, but you can't come in here and drop the CD or think that your music is about to change something. You know, you can't do nothing like that. And I'm talking about Irvington, Newark, you know what I'm saying, Philly, you know what I'm saying, Georgia, California, you know what I'm saying, just the hoods, you know what I mean? So I've learned that you're not going to be able to change a curriculum. You're not going to come into a place with a bunch of Black information and think that you're about to run something or teach something. It's just not happening like that. You know what I'm saying? We spent years trying to do it until we was just like, damn. And there's no money. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not getting paid teaching your people. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's not going to happen. You know, that's why when I got to the point where lesson two kind of popped off after we put it out, I was so, you know, it cost us more to go perform for people. I'm buying books and paper and all of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not getting $75 to come into the school, you know what I'm saying, and talk to, you know, 500 kids and all of that. You know what I'm saying? It was, you know, but those teachers have a different mind frame when it comes to dealing with Black people. It's just like, yo, they're not going to learn, you know what I mean? Like, they have mental disabilities that just comes with their pigmentation, you know what I mean? And all of these crazy stigmas, and you're not going to change their minds because, as you're saying, they get taught that on a higher level. So they think they know something. Like, they think they have this higher, I know Black people. I know because I learned it here. So it's like, you know I got to deal with these young boys like that because I learned that here. And if I learned that here, then that's how these young Negroes are. You know what I'm saying? So that's another battle that we got to fight. Just changing the mentality of teachers.
Not just teachers, because I want to transition this into the music, but this is such a good conversation. Everybody on right now, I'm on with Lak, hip hop activist, education enthusiasts, and who will bar you up. Get it twisted. My man is nice. You know what I'm saying? And he's from Jersey. What? You know what I'm saying? Yes, but yeah, it's deeper than the education part, because these are the people that's in the police force. These are people that's hiring. These are the people that are running major parts of society. And if not, they have underlings who run major militias in this country.
Yes.
And I went to a Bible study one time, and the guy I talked to said that when he was in school, it's a Caucasian man. He said when he was in school, he was taught after slavery, that was it. They learned no more about Black people, and that everything that was said about Black people must have wanted to be poor because they were poor. He never heard about Black Wall Street. He never heard about any of this stuff. So for a lot of people, it seems like we're complaining, yet they don't have the facts of what America is to us. And I don't know if you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is on Disney Plus. I want some sponsorship now.
Nah, I haven't watched that yet, but I'm going to.
There's a part where Captain America decapitates somebody with his shield, and everybody pulls out their phone. And my man who saw it said, damn, that's America right there. You know what I'm saying? Because America will give you the idea of land of the free, home of the brave, but have blood all over the flag and everything that it represents.
Mhm. Mhm.
I want to ask you this question before we go back to Ruckus is this. There are so many lessons a black man will learn to teach him he's a black man. What was the lesson that you taught that showed you I'm a black man in America and it made you stand up even more for what you believe in and not and take your music more serious and go down that road than to just live and be a black man?
Man, when you ask that question, what immediately comes to mind is I got to a point where I started being more aware and learning more, and I was able to articulate myself to different people, and the things that I was saying, we begin to have respectful dialect. You know what I'm saying, or dialogue. So as opposed to talking to our European counterparts or whatever, and having them have having them have their mind frame, right? And not being able to combat that in an intellectual kind of sparring way. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have somebody think something about you. You can have them put that on you, and you can't change their mind. You're not going to be able to teach them. You're not going to be able to tell them anything. You know what I'm saying? I kind of got to a point where once I was able to just equip myself so that I can have a conversation that could be taken seriously amongst people that didn't want to listen to me in the first place, I felt like, and this is the two-part thing, you know what I'm saying? Because I felt equipped I felt more empowered to deal with different things. You know what I mean? But it's almost like I always felt, you know what I'm saying, like a manly kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? I you know, man, grew up fighting. I played middle linebacker in high school. I'm only 5'8", you know what I'm saying? But I always had this like, yo, I'm, you know what I'm saying? You gonna deal with me. You know, I'm a really, really nice guy. Everybody tell you that, but I can go into the rage mode, right? So but that doesn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? But when you're able to really get into somebody's head, you know what I'm saying? When you're able to really just communicate with somebody in a respectful, civilized way and have dialogue with somebody that doesn't like you, doesn't agree with anything that you're saying, have to walk away from the conversation saying, damn, I respect that. You know what I'm saying? That began to change my perception of this man thing, you know what I'm saying? Of this power thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's have this type of dialogue. You know what I'm saying? You're going to respect me by the end of the conversation. I guarantee you that. You know what I'm saying? Even if we don't agree with everything that we're talking about. So having those experiences kind of led to what you're saying. I hope that kind of answers the question. Because on the one hand, it's almost like a masculine question. You know what I mean? Like your question has a masculinity tone to me. You know what I mean? But the answer lies in my ability to communicate with people and have that get the respect. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to beat everybody up. You're not going to outman somebody. You know what I'm saying? You're not tougher than anybody. You're not more thug. You know what I'm saying? But you can have a dialogue with somebody and have people that are totally enemies leave with a certain amount of respect, because it's happened to me. You know what I'm saying? Just listening to somebody and me saying, damn, well, okay, I have to agree with that. You know what I'm saying? Even though I don't agree with your whole premise, I can at least understand the square that you're standing in. So, I hope in a roundabout way.
The written word says the world will rejoice when the sons of God makes themselves manifest. So education and knowledge is something that the world wants to see and experience rather than ignorance that is projected through a thought or a preconceived notion, a prejudice. You see what I'm saying? And that was, you answered it the way it wasn't an attack or nothing. It's just that I want to get into your mind, because one thing about you that I highly respect but I need to understand is, see, for most hip hop stories, everybody goes to the block in battle. It seems like your hip hop story wasn't the block, it was you. And the battle came from within for you to manifest. And that's why I really like what you're telling me, because while most people want to be nice because they're proving themselves to other people in the cipher, you want to be nice because you want to prove yourself worthy to be able to do something for somebody else rather than just be the hottest guy who got bars. See, that's what I respect about you, because you know what? That's a very Rutgers, New Brunswick thing. And let me tell you why I say that. What years were you there?
From 95 to 2000.
So you was there during the age of the natural disasters. You was there when Bilal and them used to come up there and do their little shows and all that. See, I was up there during them years too. I was up there.
If you came up there, if you was up there, you probably went to a party that I threw. You know what I'm saying? Me and my people,
probably.
We were the party doors. You know what
we
I mean?
Probably crossed paths.
Got a whole flyer. We had everything about it. SNS, UI, Flex, you know what I'm saying? We was party throwers.
That's what I'm saying. So we probably crossed paths. So salute to the Most High who makes all things possible, because I'm going to connect with you after this. I know it, because this is great. And the thing I like about your presentation when it comes to hip hop is you're not over preachy, but you're not underrepresented as lyrical. My favorite track I heard from you is Pharaoh's Gold. Okay. And the reason why I like that song is because on a very, let's just say, superficial level, you got flow. On a very mundane level, you have a good voice for hip hop. But on a hip hop intricacy level, not only do you not let the beat overpower you, you make sure your clarity matches the kick so that your words are pronunciated very well, yet impactful with the tone of the rhythm. I dissect this shit. I don't listen to it. So Pharaoh's Gold to me was the song where not only you went into value, because not only you valued your rhyme, you valued your listener to bring them into the rhyme. How important is it as a writer to bring people into your world and not serve them a world to consider?
I think that sometimes, man, you have a gift. You know what I'm saying? And you can't, you know, for me, it's very important to like what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Because I have to be comfortable. I got to be in a very good space. Pharaoh's Gold, my man Megahertz did that track. You know what I mean? That's the Megahertz beat. And I had to record that track twice. You know what I'm saying? Because the first time I did it, I hadn't seen my man in a minute. You know what I'm saying? And he just walks into the studio like, you know, this is my childhood friend. You know what I'm saying? Me and Mega, we go through our things, but this is my friend. You know what I'm saying? So he walks into the studio. I haven't seen him in a minute. And he's like, yo, I'm paying attention. I didn't expect him to be in the studio. You know what I'm saying? So he walks in, plays the track. And I'm like, I was so excited to see my man again and reconnect with him. You know what I mean? That I wrote the joint. I came back the next day. I had a cold and all that. And I kind of, you know what I mean? I forced it, you know what I mean? Just because I wanted it to happen. And we was in the studio like, nah, because Megahertz knows me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, when I moved to Willingboro in the 7th grade, he was one of the first people I met. You know what I'm saying? Like within that first, I moved in there like September once school started. So I came back the next day, and if you listen to it, it's I have a cold, you know what I'm saying, when I'm recording that track. So it's like one of the joints, most people are not going to hear that. You know that now, you know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody else besides my wife and you know, Mercury Beats and Megahertz, we're all in the studio doing this joint, you know, we're all friends. So when we was listening to it, it sounded like it was Rush. I was insulted. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, yo, you know what I mean? Like, I don't, you know, can't criticize me, you know what I'm saying? So I came back the next day and I took my time with the rhyme, switched a couple words around. I got back into the pocket, you know what I mean? Like for me, it's really important when I say I need to like it. When I'm in the booth listening to the joints, there's a certain time when I can listen to the beat and I can tell I'm in the pocket of the rhythm. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a certain time where I feel like I'm just rhyming to the track. You know what I mean? And if you're listening to it, you might say, yo, I'm keeping the tempo. But then there's a certain point where you get into like the real groove, you know what I'm saying? And you're using your words as an instrument over those other instruments. And you might say this or take a breath here and it counts because you're such in the pocket of the groove. And when you hear it, it's just, you know what I mean? You just rocking with it. So I like doing that. I like being able to hear that. I like being able to hear myself be in that pocket of the groove. You know what I mean? So for me, it goes back to, I need to like that. I need to appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? I need to come up with the words that I want to say first and foremost. And then when I listen to that beat, now that's the only time that has ever happened. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I get out of pocket, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I was just excited to see my man. I ain't seen him in a couple years, you know what I mean? But he's just a world traveler. So for me, when you brought up Pharaoh's Gold, you know what I'm saying, I was immediately went back to thinking about that story and all of that stuff happened in like the three and a half day time span. But it was really important for me to there's a groove you get into, man. There's different things that I feel like I can hear. I can sometimes just hear my voice really in a particular kind of pocket with the rhythm, and I don't necessarily have the words to explain that. You know what I'm saying? It's just something I hear. You know what I mean? Like when I'm talking about in the pocket of the groove, I don't just mean rhyming to the beat. There's a particular inlay, you know what I'm saying, that I just gotta feel, you know what I mean? I don't really have the words for that. I just feel it. I naturally just feel it. And it just comes out, you know what I mean?
Yo, interesting. Because then I have to ask you the MC question to see if you really are MC about this.
What's up?
When you write, do you write to the beat or do you write out of inspiration?
Both.
Okay, so two-part question. What is the voice of inspiration and how do you translate the voice of the beat to bring up your subject matter?
Well, when I say both, right, there's been particular times when you go through phases and you might say, you know what I'm saying, I'm 30, you know what I mean? I'm older than 30 now, you know what I mean? But I'm giving a real example. I'm getting to this point and everybody that I know is not rapping no more. Maybe it's time for me to do something different. You know what I'm saying? But I have bars in my head. There's no rhythm. You know what I'm saying? I just have them in my head. And next thing you know, I got to spit them out. Most of the time, that's what comes out as my freestyles. You know what I'm saying? And it might be 40 bars. You know what I'm saying? And I'll go to the studio and lay down 40 bars with my man just to get it out. So that's just an example of sometimes I just got it in my head. You know what I mean? It's like even when I try to step away, I'll come up with a bar and I'll be like, yo, that's dope. And then it's just that little bar. And then I'll make something that rhymes with it. And then now I got 16. Now I got 20, but it's nothing to spit them on. You know what I'm saying? But I have my own. But when I write, I still want to keep the flow of how the words is going. I'm still using my words as an instrument. So it's still a timing thing, even though I'm not rhyming to anything. That's one. Number two, sometimes I hear a track, and this is so there's three things. That's one. Sometimes I hear a track and I'll say, that's what I want to say to that joint. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're listening to lesson 2 in particular, I'll get those tracks and I'll say, that's what I want to say to that rhyme right there. That's what need to be said, right? And then I'll get the beat and then I'll construct the rhyme around the beat. You know what I'm saying? Basically that. Sometimes it's, I need to tell this story and I got to pick the beat out that goes with the story that I want to tell, right? So, for example, Harriet Tubman, you know what I'm saying, which is one of my more popular songs, right? When I heard that, the first thing I said to myself was, this sounds like I want to tell a personal story. I almost told my own story to it, but I'm like, nah, I'm doing education. I was like, let me keep my discipline with this. You know what I'm saying? Let me not veer off the path that I'm on, because I want to kick some bars to this. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, because I heard a story being told on that track. But I'm like, who do I want to tell a story about? And Harriet Tubman came to mind. You know what I'm saying? So when you're listening to that joint, it's in the format of, and the reason that I rhyme as if I'm Harriet Tubman is because I wanted to tell my own story, but I disciplined myself to stay on this educational path. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm a rap like I'm Harriet Tubman. So, you know what I'm saying? That's why it's like if she could rap, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna say channel that. I don't want to get like extra spooky or nothing like that, but I went into her mind frame. I studied her story. She's already impactful to me. You know what I'm saying? She was already just, Harriet Tubman and Queen Nzinga is just two women I really respect. So I heard the beat. I wanted to tell a story on it. I end up telling hers. I already knew the format because it sounds like I want to tell a personal story. So I'm going to rhyme like her and rap as if she's telling her personal story. You know what I mean? So these are just examples of how things could come about. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, I'm working on this story about different classical artists, Bach, Beethoven, you know what I'm saying, Mozart. So picking out the classical joints that we could sample so that I can tell these stories. You know what I mean? That's an example of, I already know what I want to say, but now I got to get that sound, get that groove, so I can now get into the pocket of how I want to deliver this to the people. So I really don't have like just one way of approaching things. You know what I'm saying? I started rhyming when I was like 9, you know what I mean? So I done rap fast, I done did the Das Effects thing, I done did the mad slow joint, I did everything but singing. You know what I mean? So I have different approaches that I may attack putting a song together. It's not typical.
You know what intrigues me? I think you're out of your era, but you're saving the era at the same time. Like the realest,
I understand
the one of the realest love songs in hip hop I ever heard was "Revolutionary Generation." You know that song?
By who?
Public Enemy. No one
Okay,
thinks.
well, if it's about Public Enemy, then
Yeah.
I'm sure I've heard it.
Nobody thinks Public Enemy makes love songs, but they have a song dedicated to the black woman called "Revolutionary Generation," and that's the song where they talk about how black women have deserved more because they were there from creation, and in their words, through creation and devastation, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like the black woman has always been there. And the song "Black Woman" with you and Capone is one of the most impactful songs that makes a person sit back and really thinks about the value of the woman. You even have a skit in there where somebody goes to space or something, they see God, and they say, yeah,
Right, yeah.
God's, she's a black woman. You know what I'm saying? And I mean
Yeah.
that's impactful because the education goes beyond the bar. It even goes into the skit and into the message that leaves you with more. What is the voice that you want hip hop to take on that you don't hear too much within it?
Wow, because there's a lot of voices in hip hop, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So the voice that I don't hear, I'll find. But I don't know. I got to think about that, man, because for me, I listen to everybody today. You know what I'm saying? I like I forgot the brother's name, but I'm a fan of his music. He's not. I like he's one of the babies. You know what I'm saying? But it's not the baby. It's the other baby. You know what I'm saying? Even though I think the baby's dope, but
Lil
it's the
Baby.
other baby. I think it's Lil Baby. You know what I'm saying? He's you know what I'm saying? I just I mean he's dope because I started listening to the content of what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? But I also go back. I still listen to Illmatic. I still listen. It was written as my favorite album. I still listen to It Takes the Nations and Millions to Hold Us Back, speaking of Public Enemy. You know what I'm saying? I still, I listen to everything. You know what I'm saying? I still listen to Biggie, of course. I still listen to Tupac, of course. You know what I'm saying? I'm listening to Black Thought from the Roots. So I hear everything. You know what I'm saying? Talib Kweli and Mos Def. Black on Both Sides is one of my favorite albums, you know what I'm saying, by Mos Def. It's so to say what I'm missing, I get my nourishment from listening to everything. In the game today, it's a different sound. Um, that's why I stay in my educational lane, because I know this is my lane. I know this works for me. I know I could, I know I could rhyme the way that I can, and I know I can get this out, and I know people appreciate it. But at the same time, I do and I know it's part of that underground hip hop sound. If you go to a battle and you listen to the cadence, you're not going to hear the cadence that's on the radio. You're going to hear that underground hip hop sound. You know what I mean? That's never going to die, because it's how you're going to communicate, especially if you're engaging in some type of lyrical warfare. So I still, I hear all those sounds, you know what I'm saying? And people may be missing stuff that I'm listening to from the past. You know what I'm saying? Like I hear people say, yo, I don't like all of the singing and stuff in hip hop. You know what I mean? And the melodicness that's going on in hip hop now. I hear a lot of people that's my age and over saying that, because we grew up without that. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, yo, I'm gonna listen to that, but I'm also gonna listen to this. So I don't necessarily miss things, because I can bridge the gap. You know, and I think it is important. One of the things that's not happening is there's not an appreciation for the music of the past like that. For example, when we listen to R&B, everybody listens to Teddy Pendergrass. Everybody still listens to the Isley Brothers. You don't think twice about it. Everybody listens. We just Earth, Wind, and Fire. You know what I'm saying? Minnie Riperton. Like, everybody still, if you're into R&B, you're still gonna, or if you want to take it to Boys to Men, or, you know what I'm saying, Jodeci, you know what I'm saying? And this is 20, we talking about 20 years ago now. That's not today's, but we still listen to that. You know what I'm saying? In hip hop, we're not doing that as much. You know what I'm saying? We're not bringing Follow the Leader back up here. We're not taking Ain't No Half Stepping by Big Daddy Kane and bringing it up here, and just merging both worlds so that you can listen to this but appreciate that and know where it's coming from. You know what I mean? It's one of the since hip hop is one of the newest genres, that's something that I feel it's on our backs, especially the people that come from that age of me, of our age. You know what I'm saying? It's on our backs to do that, because we're like the first generation that was born into hip hop. You know what I'm saying? When we came into hip hop, there was no old hip hop. We're the new, so now there's old hip hop, but we just got here because we're that first generation. So it's on us to kind of carry this torch. It's on us older people that's MCs to do this. It's on a Jay and a Nas and a Styles P to keep rhyming and to keep showing people that this is what it is, and keep making Jadakiss to keep making things, Fabulous to keep making things that's fire. You know what I'm saying? To bridge this gap of, it's all inclusive. It shouldn't be this era, because this era is going to change. You know what I'm saying? You're going to go from Lil Wayne to this to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, every era is going to change, but it's on us to really just bring all these things together and not separate them like we're doing it. We got to stop saying this, hip hop is a young man's game. It was young because there was no old hip hop when we came into it. Now that ain't the case. So it's on us to really change that mind frame. But you can't put down your lyrical sword and then pick it back up 10 years later thinking that you're going to be in some type of rhythmic pocket. You're not. You know what I'm saying? It don't happen like that. You know, and that's why me and Capone is constantly rhyming. You know what I'm saying? That's people, the brother is constantly rhyming. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's easy for us to get in that booth and do what we do and stay in the pocket of that rhythm. You can't put your sword down and then pick it back up and think it's going to be the same. You got to continue it if you want to put it on your back and carry it into the future while still looking at the youth.
Hip hop suffers from Rehoboamism. That's what you're talking about. You know the story of Rehoboam?
No.
So in the Bible, right? King Solomon was the last great king that we hear about in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Yes. We had David, Solomon, and then, nothing unless you really study it. You know what I'm saying? Solomon had a son named Rehoboam, and he told Rehoboam, who was a young man, listen to your elders because they know the old ways. Don't rely on the new ways to do everything. You need to know the people, and they have the experience of the people. Rehoboam did not answered his father's wishes and he went with the young people instead and alienated the older people. So when that happened, the kingdom of Israel split. And then we have Israel, no, Judah. The kingdom of Judah split, and we had Judah and Israel. That's why we have the 12 tribes and the 12 tribes and the kingdom separating. But the point was that age was the divisive thing that separated the kingdom. And the genre of hip hop, not the culture, but the genre of hip hop is the same way. I felt highly aged when a student of mine, back when I used to teach at a college, told me they don't listen to new school music. They listen to old school hip hop. I said, okay, what's old school to you? And they said Jadakiss and Benny Siegel. And I said, what?
Oh yeah.
That's old to you?
Right.
And then I had to realize that the way the world is, the generations speed up even faster. So now Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick Lamar are considered old school. And I have to really take that to heart. Like, damn, that's old school to you? Because like you said, people don't play Follow the Leader. People don't even want to play Biggie and Pac no more. It's not that only that it's crazy. It's just that because they're men of color, especially, and hip hop is a male dominated sport. If black men are going to capitalize off of it the most, then why would the corporations hold it up to put black men in prominence? They would want to just move the old and always give you the new so that the elder ways are forgotten and the newer ways are what's precedent. Right. And that's bullshit as far as I'm concerned.
True indeed.
But there's something about your marketing that I like that keeps the old ways relevant. And it is that on your new project, which is Black Matters, correct?
Yes.
You took a greatest hits mentality and put works from lesson 1, lesson 2, and Wolves on it. Why did you do that? And that was very genius.
Well, there was a couple of things. Number one, it was Black History Month. I wanted to put out a Black Matters album in Black History Month because I didn't see anybody else doing it. You know what I'm saying? I've been wanting to do it for years. You know what I mean? I had the concept of Black Matters originally when I was thinking about putting together a Black Matters album. It was going to be a science album. It was going to be about space. It was going to be about it was going to be Black Matters. You know what I'm saying? And I was going to go real to the left with the science. That album is, once I started going down that rabbit hole of dealing, there was more things that I wanted to say. You know what I'm saying? And it was the information was becoming a lot deeper. So I kept missing the mark. This time I'm like, listen, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to put out a Black Matters album in Black History Month, and it's going to be a collection of this so that you can get your dose of Black hip hop per se. Harriet Tubman, MLK, Pharaoh's Gold. But then, you know what I'm saying? It was, I wanted to give people something that can be celebrated in the month of Black History Month. The crazy thing was the pushback from trying to promote the joint. You know what I'm saying? How we're trying to get it out and I'm running into like copyright joints on my own music. You know what I'm saying? Or trying to push it out on this and people saying, yo, the MLK joint is violent. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, everything's educational. I got the machine pushback, which is why it didn't come out on the first. You know what I'm saying? It kept being these technical problems. We're putting out an album called Black Matters during Black History Month. It was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Just even, I'm like, yo, all of this is my own music. You know what I mean? So, man, it was difficult. But, you know what I'm saying? My wife and I, you know, shout outs to her because she's, like I said, we separate the company into that. You know what I mean? When it comes to marketing, that's what she takes care of. When it comes to just putting the music together and, you know, putting it out there to the people performing and, you know what I mean? That's my department. Even though we work together, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, you know, we still work together and everything, but that's her thing. You know what I'm saying? She, like I said, she's great with that. But it was, the idea was just to not let Black History Month go by without putting out a project that I felt people can appreciate and listen to. And I was hoping that people would just rock to it all month. You know what I'm saying? It was Black Matters, it was Black History Month. I got all this, you know what I'm saying, music. The plan was just to get people listening to that and getting into the groove and putting out a project that was in honor of that. That was the purpose and the point. You know what I mean? It was like bureaucratically held up. You know what I mean? And it's amazing the problems that you run into when you're trying to push out Black music, trying to push out Harriet Tubman, and people saying this is too political. You heard Harriet Tubman. It's not even political. You know what I'm saying? Trying to put that out and trying to promote it and getting people and getting a response back saying you can't promote this on Instagram because it's too political. How? And then having to come rewrite them and say, "Wait, show me that." Oh, I can't, so you can push it. You know what I mean? And we dealt with that. You know what I mean? These are real stories. So but the point was to put that out during Black History Month.
Man, that's amazing. I'm speechless on that one because it's so evident and so real that it's real life. I mean, look at what's going on in the country today, where a young man can't even walk down his street and he's getting pushed down the street from a Army sergeant who was discharged, who then puts a post up after his family is escorted from the people on his lawn to how he's a good man and white racism exists in America in 2020. Even to the part where Tucker Carlson is saying how the Jews want to replace people on Caucasians in the country and bring in more people of ethnic melanated countries or ethnicity so they can deplete the white vote and have their influence over the country. It's so much that goes on to destroy our nature that I salute you and applaud you, and I will support your movement as best as I can. So for everybody out there watching, please give them your social media and where they can find your projects.
Okay. You can find Lesson 1, Lesson 2, Wolves, and the Black Matter CD on all streaming platforms, from Apple Music to Spotify to Tidal, whatever you have. You type Lak, L-A-K, put in Lesson 1, Lesson 2, or Wolves, which is Lak and Capone. You know what I mean? If you're going on Instagram, it's Smart Hip Hop. If you're going on Twitter, it's Smart Hip Hop. If you're going to Facebook, it's Smart Hip Hop Music. And the company is www.smart-hiphop.com. I mean, the website. So, get all of that music, man. It's all available. It's on every streaming platform. We live in a digital age. On the one hand, it makes it easier to put your music out, but on the other hand, you miss those hard sales.
And that is why Heritage Hip Hop does not believe in streaming. Everybody, if you stream his albums and you like them or you love them or like to love them, we ask you, please purchase the albums. He will tell you, I put my money where my mouth is and I purchased all 4 projects. And the reason why is because if you have something that you like or something that you feel has value or is beneficial, you want to own it.
Right.
In today's society, we have hailstorms in Mississippi. We have pandemics and a person laughing on TV with his wife saying, if they didn't wake up to this one, wait till the next one comes. Think about it. So if you don't own what you have or you love, it's not yours. And I do not believe in renting music. So please do yourself a favor of owning the music that you like or you love and giving back to the artist who creates it. Because if you do not, you will not ensure yourself more music and you're not showing the artist a demand for them to make more music. Do you agree?
I agree 100%, man. I really miss the days. It's scary having all your everything online.
Yeah.
A plug can be pulled.
Yeah.
All your stuff can be erased. Not having the hard copy of your joints to put out is very, very dangerous, especially if somebody specifically wants to silence you. You know what I'm saying? People can scrub stuff from the internet. People, we're not in that age where people won't be able to scrub your music or scrub your presence from existence. You know what I mean? So I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? But you have to take advantage. It's like adapt or die. You know what I'm saying? You have to take advantage of the age that you live in. And this is the age that we're living in. But man, I miss just buying a CD and being able to just look at all of the information on the back or reading whatever special message that they used to write. And you know what I'm saying? Used to read the credits, and then some artists used to write this and that, you know what I mean? Like that was dope. You know what I'm saying? Now it's just, I heard it. I'll put it in my playlist. You know what I mean? And things are just different, man. I do miss those days, and I think that that's not appreciated as much as it should be. It's people physically going to the store to buy your joint. You know what I'm saying? That's showing love. You know what I'm saying? And you could just, it's man. I don't like that part of music, man.
Me neither. That's why I'm very into people purchasing rather than streaming. Like I stream because I want to know if I like it.
Right.
But if I do, I want to own it. You know what I'm saying? And that's just me. So, if people could collect Jordans, you can get a damn album. Like, come on, yo. Like, let's be real.
People do collect Jordans.
Yeah, I mean, come on, I ain't buying no sneakers for $300. But at the end of the day, you do what you like. But if you like it, you go out of your way to own it. And I want people to do that with our culture as well, because we have an art. What you do is an art. People in overseas study what you do, and it needs to be respected here just the same way. I believe America is people say slavery is over. No, it is not, because the mentality of slavery still exists. If they could write books called How to Sell to the Negro, think about it, they can, and when I say they, I mean the powers that be who run corporate America. If they can make a book called How to Sell to the Negro, they could also make a way to make new slavery, which is this. Yes. So my thing is, if the record label is the overseer, no, the master of the plantation, the streaming person is the overseer, and while they have a whip, they're actually beating the asses of all the slaves who are the entertainment artists, who's telling you go there to get my music instead of coming to me to get my music, because we're all about owning your music and owning your art. Period.
Indeed, man.
That's what heritage hip hop is all about. You know what I'm saying?
True indeed, man. Salute to you. Salute to this platform.
Thank you.
My company moves forward because of platforms like this. This is the square that we stand on in order to keep spreading the message out, keep being out there, and keep getting to the people. This is the platform that we stand on.
Facts, and more importantly, thank you. But more importantly, it comes with the relationships. Because after this, like I said, man, I want to be connected to the hip. Like, look, I know how I could be down, how I could be part of your team person. Whenever you need me, I'm there, and we will support each other. Because this platform was built on, my platform wasn't built on hip hop. My platform was built on people from New Jersey having the right to tell their own story. Because New Jersey hip hop always gets forgotten. Nobody it's the same way New York forgets about Heavy D when they talk about dead MCs. Nobody talks about Fatal Hussein. Nobody talks about a Big Snuff. Nobody talks about Govmatic. And there's so many more. So that's why this platform starts from New Jersey and goes around the world, because we are all about appreciating our story and celebrating the culture of hip hop as well. Yeah. Now I know this interview ain't the People's Party. I saw you up there. You was flexing. I saw you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, congratulations. But I wanted to give you an interview that not only listened and appreciated you, huh?
It is the People's Party, man. You know what I'm saying? This is important.
I appreciate it. But I wanted to give you an interview where instead of talking about something that's written on paper, I wanted to appreciate your music and give recognition to the man you are, not just you as an artist. So salute to you, and may many blessings come to you, your wife, who's your business partner, and more importantly, your family, as your legacy proceeds many, many, many years and many blessings beyond today. So salute to you and your family.
Thank you, my brother.
Now, before we end this interview, I like to play a game called the Rapid Fire Questions. Are you ready to play this game?
Let's do it.
The rapid fire questions are not yes, no questions. These are questions that talk about your depth of hip hop knowledge and how hip hop helped mold you into the artist and man that you are? You ready to play?
Yes.
Question number 1. What album or song outside of your catalog perfectly describes you?
Perfectly describes me. Oh man, perfectly describes me. Wow. Oh man, wow. A couple of songs came to mind, man. There's a couple of Nas songs that came wow, perfectly. I don't know how you perfectly. I don't know no other me's outside of me. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if anybody else can tell my story, or you know what I'm saying? Like outside of me, I don't meet people like me. I meet people, you know what I'm saying, where I have a good energy, you know what I mean? Like yourself, like the vibe, the energy. But my story, nah, I don't know about that one, bro.
Uh-oh, we got to tap out. We got to tap out.
Just my story. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who even fits my story. You know what I'm saying? I think that I'm pretty unique in that category, man.
That's dope.
I think I'm pretty unique, man.
That's dope. That's dope. Okay.
I'm not.
If you had to define music in 5 albums, what would the 5 albums be?
Nations of Millions to Hold Us Back.
Mm-hmm.
It Was Written.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to Die.
Mm.
Man, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Classic joint, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about it's the Tupac album before All Eyes on Me with
Me Against the World.
Me Against the World.
Okay.
That's the one with Shed Too Many Tears and Dear Mama.
Yes.
That one.
Okay. One more.
This got to be like 10. You know what I'm saying? Because Reasonable Doubt, that's a tough album, man.
I said I'm gonna give you 5. That's it, man. You only get 5.
I feel reasonable because Midnight Marauder is that album changed me.
So that should have been number 1.
Yeah, it should have been my number 1. You know what I'm saying? You know, I mean, look, all right, let me do this again. Midnight Marauders.
All right.
It Was Written.
Okay.
Reasonable Doubt.
Okay.
Ready to Die.
Mm-hmm.
Me Against the World.
All right.
This is no respect to the artists that came after that, because there's a lot of people I'm leaving out. You know what I'm saying? There's, you know what I mean? There's a lot of, you know what I mean? I do like Kendrick Lamar. I do like J. Cole. I do like, you know what I'm saying? I like Jadakiss, you know what I'm saying? Of course, the Lak Styles P is incredible. You know, there's just a lot of hip hop out there, man. But those albums, I'd say you gotta have those.
Okay, that's what's up. My next question is, being that you're from a part of Jersey that's highly forgotten about when it comes to the New Jersey hip hop story, how did your area influence you? Because when people think of Jersey, they only think about 3 areas. They think about Essex County, Newark, New Jersey, East Orange, Irvington, you know. They think about Hudson County, which is Jersey City, because it's right next to New York City. And then people skip all the way to South Jersey because Poor Righteous Teachers and the Philly connection. The Union County, even Morris County, Middlesex County, all that's forgotten about. So how were you influenced by hip hop in your area, and how did you keep that alive?
Well, I mean, I would say Poor Righteous Teachers being from Trenton. I that's Central Jersey to me. That's not
Okay.
South Jersey, especially when I lived in Willingboro and Camden. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
that's a whole
saying?
nother
That's South
monster.
Jersey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People think about Camden. You know what I'm saying? People think about Trenton and Newark, and I mean, maybe I'm from Jersey, so I'm biased, and I know, but people, everybody know about Newark, Camden, Trenton. Um, for me, I Laws of the Underground. Redman is one of my favorite MCs of all time. I met the brother, you know what I'm saying? I believe he tried to put me on. I just didn't follow through the way that I should with it. You know what I'm saying? I met him, rhymed for him. He gave me his numbers and told me who to call and did all that. I just didn't follow through because I called the number twice and it ended up being like Eric Sermon's number or something like that. But you know, Laws of the Underground, Redman, Tretch, you know what I'm saying, from Naughty by Nature, you know what I'm saying, Queen Latifah, Poor Righteous Teachers. These are artists that, for me, being from Jersey, especially Redman, especially Tretch, especially Laws, especially Queen, you know what I'm saying, and there's others I'm forgetting, but that right there made me proud to be from Jersey. You know what I'm saying? When I listen to their music, you know what I'm saying, without like I was never big on everything outside of New York. I mean, outside of Jersey. Like when people listen and they think about East Coast, you think about New York. I was never, respect New York and all of that. You know what I'm saying? Salute, home and hip, but I'm from Jersey. You know what I'm saying? I never wanted to be a part of anything else outside of Jersey. You know what I'm saying? From north to south. So for me, it was definitely those particular artists that I was proud of. It was those particular artists that I honed in on. It was those particular artists that I still listen to. Do It All Do. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to that brother. That's, you know what I'm saying? That's a good brother. It's my man. Like I said, I don't have no relationship with Redman, but I met the brother. You know what I'm saying? And he's he, you know what I mean? He tried to put me on. You know what I'm saying? But I was a kid. You know what I'm saying? I was like 14 years old when that happened. But I never forgot it. You know what I'm saying? And it impacted me. And it was dope that I rhymed for DJ Polo, and DJ Polo took me over to Redman. And then I rhymed for Redman, and you know what I'm saying? And that was like my idol at the time. With, you know what I'm saying? I could, Muddy Waters is one of my favorite albums. Then There Is a Dark Side is another one of my favorite albums. And even when he came out, I'm saying, with the original, you know what I'm saying, EPMD and the Def Squad and all of that. But those artists, Queen Latifah, you know what I'm saying? I still listen to her joints, you know what I'm saying? Even in the joint I listen to, I think Tretch wrote, but it's still, Queen Latifah in command, you know what I'm saying? Give it to him, Queen. That's on the playlist right now, you know what I'm saying? But I think Tretch wrote that, you know what I'm saying? But still in all, don't really matter, you know what I mean? But those artists made me proud to be from Jersey. Made me, you know what I'm saying? I feel like those are like the kings and queens, and those are the people that hold it down. I was about to, you know what I'm saying? I was rolling with Flavor Unit for a little bit.
That's
You
a
know,
whole interview that we can have later because I'm working on something about them now. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I was rocking with them for a minute. This was 18 years ago.
Mm.
Did a demo with them and went to KG's house and all that, and things didn't work out, but not because of the music. It was other things that transpired.
Understood, no doubt. We'll keep it moving.
Word.
I love New Jersey hip hop, but I think Brooklyn beats the world when it comes to hip hop. I think Brooklyn is the standard of hip hop for the simple fact they're the only place where anybody from the borough can come together and do a song and represent the borough, not themselves. I think the Crooklyn Dodgers was one of the pinnacles of hip hop because there was 3 songs of the Crooklyn Dodgers. People only talk about 2, but there were 3. The third one was Jean Grey, Memphis Bleak, Ninth Wonder did the beat, and I forgot the third person. My apologize on me, okay? But the first 2 was Primo, and you had representation of people from different cliques and stuff in the borough. If you could do your own version of Brooklyn Dodgers of New Jersey, who would be on the track and who would do the beat?
Well, it would definitely be me.
You
It would
gotta put
definitely
you on there.
Redman.
Uh-huh.
It would definitely be Tretch.
That's it.
Um, here we go.
Who's doing the beat?
If,
Who would do the beat on that you think will make it take it to the next level?
I would say Mercury Beats, man.
All right, keep it in house.
Mercury Beats, man. I respect, I respect his talent. You know what I'm saying? Outside of that being my man, I respect his talent. You know what I'm saying? Mercury Beats is a brother that's really, he doesn't get the respect that he deserves in the industry.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because he's quiet. You know what I'm saying? He's a humble guy. You know what I'm saying? But he's the one who connected me with different people. So and he's just phenomenal.
So Mercury Beats, inviting you to Heritage Hip Hop to tell your story because your story is worth telling. You could be quiet out there, but here it's time to get your flowers. So if you would like to come on Heritage Hip Hop, it'll be an honor to talk to you.
I'll let him know.
No doubt. Let him see this.
We're gonna be doing a lot of interviews, man. So I'll call him tonight, man. Let him know.
No doubt. All right, I got about like 4 more questions, and we're gonna have some fun with these. Quick question, yes or no question. Do you like everybody being featured on people's albums nowadays?
Yes.
Okay, because back in the day, the guest 16 or the feature was very limited, and that's what made it special. Yes. And we appreciated it more. As a hip hop fan, let me ask you a question. Who has the best guest 16 in hip hop history to you? The best feature.
The best feature. You talking about their whole album or the best featured list?
No, the person who got on somebody else's song and stole the song. The best feature.
Oh wow! And stole the song.
Yeah.
Oh man, DMX comes to mind.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
You know what I mean? I think 4, 3, 2, 1. I would say DMX stole that.
Yeah, he stole it.
So that's LL song, and I idolized LL. I was the Kango wearing dude. You know what I'm saying? When I'm Bad came out, man, forget it. But D stole that. You know what I'm saying? Stay on it now. Love that. So that's immediately comes to mind. Mm-hmm. But wow, I'm sure that there's other people that have murdered, you know what I'm saying, a feature. But immediately DMX comes to mind, 4, 3, 2, 1. And he just, he was the highlight of that whole joint.
Okay. You remix Congresswoman, right? Is that the song?
Yeah, it was I have 2 versions of Congresswoman.
And I love that song. 2 versions. Hey, I love that song. Shout out to Shirley Chisholm, rest in peace. You know what I'm saying? That's a great story as well. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And the remix is something that we did in hip hop to bring new life to songs. Mm-hmm. So another question for my brother, who's a hip hop historian and a person who lives this culture: what's the greatest hip hop remix of all time?
Of all time?
Yeah.
I can't say of all time.
Why not?
But a powerful remix to me, Word is Bond, was when Pete Rock did the Shut 'Em Down joint.
Oh yeah.
Yo,
yeah.
Enemy is like a particular kind of style and group. So I didn't. So when Pete Rock did that, that's just that was just an incredible job. You know what I'm saying? And Pete Rock is definitely. I would love to work with Pete Rock. You know what I'm saying? But that was just a phenomenal. That's a phenomenal remix, man, for a bunch of reasons. There's some dope remixes out there. You know what I'm saying? But to take Public Enemy and have that joint, you know what I'm saying? That was just crazy, man. That was crazy.
Yes,
so
it is.
I would go there. I would go there with it.
That's a God level remix, man. That's important. Last 2 questions. My My next question is, if you had the ability to make your perfect song, who would be on it and who would do the beats, dead or alive, no restrictions?
You know, I would love to do it, me, Nas, and Pete Rock.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I think that would be powerful. Um, you know, I think that would be dope. You know what I'm saying? I think me for the styles and you know what I'm saying? I think me, Nas, and Pete Rock, man. That would be, because there's Dr. Dre, you know what I'm saying? There's Primo, you know what I mean? There's Knife Wonder, you know what I'm saying? There's Dilla, you know what I mean? But I think that, you know, for the jazz sample, for the bass line and for the content, you know what I'm saying? You know, I would go me, Nas, and Pete Rock, man.
Before I close this interview, I want to give you a high compliment. Like I said, I think you're in the wrong era, but you're saving this era because I think you would have fit in with the Juice Crew lovely. I think you and Master Ace would have been a great team. Yeah, you are reminiscent of what hip hop was, yet you are the standard of what hip hop is. So I want to give, like I said, before we all get off, most high's blessings to you, respect, and I pray, not hope, because I don't believe in hope. Because Dick Gregory said it before. Hope you pay your rent, see if you ain't on the street. So salute to the RP to Dick Gregory. So I mean, like I said, man, I pray that your movement moves and the movement is powerful and positive. That no matter, even if you deadline, a deadline only is a setup for a pinnacle. So may you get there many times in many ways, you know?
Thank you. I do appreciate that, Mo. I got a lot of work to do. Definitely some things I'm working on.
Stay alive, man.
I appreciate you, my brother.
Just stay alive. That's all. You know, that's the first part. So my final question is this: the loss of DMX showed us the power of a legacy. And now that the list of rappers dying gets even greater, not only in numbers, but in contributions to the culture, we have big shoes to fill. DMX, like I said, Heavy D, Guru, Biggie, Pac. Even if you want to talk to people who are lesser known up here, but higher known in other places like Pimp C, Nipsey Hussle, you know what I'm saying? The list of our greats who have passed on begs the question of, should they be in the history books and be remembered? So my final question to you is, Lak, 500 years from now, when they go to the Hip Hop Hall of Fame, and a child asks about smart hip hop and how it changed the world, and they push your red button on the wall, and your hologram pops out, and your list of accomplishments in the world comes out, and they see that, that's inspirational. Excuse me. My final question to you is this: even after 500 years, people are going to remember you. What is the legacy you leave behind that made the world better because you did hip hop music?
I think I have a legacy of, immediately when you say legacy, the first thing I think about is being a husband, being a father, and being a good man and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I have 3 daughters. From a hip hop perspective, I think that I uniquely combined educational content with like a real hip hop flow and format and style. I think I really, and I'm not the originator, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Blastmaster KRS-One, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Raskar, shout out to Nas, shout out to the people that I listen to and I'm inspired by and I learn from. But I do think that I really was able to merge and put out an entire project of bars and educational content in a way that was really unique. You know what I'm saying? And that is my contribution. Outside of everybody else who might use this kind of language, outside of everybody who's going to be this hard, You know, I just don't think that there's another album quite like Lesson 2 or quite like Wolves. Lesson 1 is dope, but I was still learning and I was still getting into the pocket of how do we do that? You know what I mean? Or how am I going to continue this? It was really for the kids. It was really for the kids. I made Lesson 2 for the hip hop community. You know, so I had a totally different mind frame. So I think that I was really, really able to just merge that in a dope way.
So with that being said, everyone, remember that the things that you do inspire people, not only now, but for generations to come. And education does not only come from a book. Education comes from what you put into your life. So be careful with what you listen to, what you eat, and what you watch, because you could destroy your life just as well as you could make things in your life better and put into your life. Do not choose to live life for the sake of living. Choose to be knowledgeable of your life so you can inspire yourself and others to come after you. For the word says that you are a light, and God didn't make your light to be hidden. You're supposed to go on top of a tower so you can direct the world to your light and ultimately to knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and righteousness. This is Karev with the brother Lak, a smart hip hop, author of Lesson 1, Lesson 2, Wolves with Capone of CNN, and Black Matters, the album, which are all great buys. Make sure you go buy them. And with that being said, we say peace and we out.
Peace. Oh, peace. And we do it together. I can't do them with five. My brothers will get on me for that.
Thank you for watching our presentation. We ask that you subscribe to our YouTube family and hit the notification bell for updates. Please like, comment, and share this video.